Hello, welcome back to PlayStation Access. My name's Nathan, I'm here with Dave.
Hello.
Hey Dave, you've been on holiday, but I have been playing Vampyr.
Who's the real winner, Nath?
I am. This is 11 things that I wish I'd known before I started, because it's a complicated game.
Yes.
It's out in the UK this week. It's out on Tuesday the 5th, so you're probably watching this video the day before that, or after that, so you can go and play this now. Vampyr, Dave, is, just to set the scene, it's an RPG in which you play a vampirically infected Dr. Man in London in 1918.
Yes, and it's a game that you and I saw at E3 last year, Nath, and it instantly caught my attention as something... doing, something a little bit different, so I'm excited about what you've got to tell me.
I've got a few things. Well, let's crack on. So, number one, answering the question, is it an open world?
Is it?
Kinda.
Okay.
So it's sort of, but not really. There are 4 explorable London districts.
Yeah.
They are interconnected, but they are also unlocked slowly as you go through the game. So there are some areas, first of all, that you won't be able to reach, and they're also gated by sometimes by levels. You'll go to an area and go, oh no.
Right.
I shouldn't be here.
Not yet.
Not yet. But really, what I wanted to make the point, we'll come back to kind of districts in a moment. But the London looks very nice. It's very pretty.
Yeah.
This isn't as big an environment as some kind of action games that you might find on PlayStation. But I really like the way that they have done gothic turn of the century, just after the turn of the century London. It's really nice.
Personally, I'm not too interested in how big it is, but how a good of an environment it is.
Yeah, and there's some moments you're walking down the street and you're like, yeah, man. Yeah.
Is it quite true to London? Obviously, a London from a different time, but do you know if
Nope, I don't think so. Well, it has real place names, but it's much more of a kind of fictionalized snapshot than it is anything else.
Sounds good.
Speaking of those districts, Dave, number 2, the game is based around keeping them healthy. I'm building up a few points now because I'm trying to pull the mechanics of the game apart, and I kind of it took me a while to kind of get to grips with what it was doing. So just talking about the districts, each district has like a health rating, which is literally based on the health of the citizens inside that district.
Okay, and when we're talking about health, are we talking about not being a vampire, or just like the plague? Or
well, because the whole point about London is that the London that you're in is in a kind of a crisis, and that crisis is both the end of the war, so things are bad, and also an epidemic of Spanish flu. Or is it Spanish flu?
Dun dun dun.
And historically, yeah. I mean, I think it was around at this period of time when, in real London and in other European kind of cities, they were clearing slums because they burgeoning kind of understanding that slums created terrible kind of health risks for the people who lived there and why, and also that it was important for all people not to die of diseases that were easily avoidable. So all of that kind of political kind of environment kind of plays into the game, which is why I quite like the idea that you're a doctor and you are trying to keep, well, you can do this if you want, that the districts have a rating which is related directly to health, and it's like healthy, and then it goes down to serious, and then chaotic at the end.
Right.
And speaking of, I need to move on to those citizens, Dave, because like I said, you're going to find, you might remember this from the demo that we saw, like a lineup. As you kind of meet people, they will become known to you.
Yeah.
And it's like a Guess Who kind of board of like, different people, their names, and then you find out different things about them. You compile like little dossiers on all the people that live there, and the game is serious about your role as a doctor.
Right.
You're based at Pembroke Hospital. Like there's a bit of kind of plot jiggery pokery, and then you're based at a hospital for the rest of the game. And you will go, you'll go around and talk to people, and they will sometimes have ailments, and you will literally manufacture the cure in your room, and then go out and give them to people, and then they will get healthier.
Nice.
And that serves a dual purpose. I mean, we'll get onto this again in a minute, but also, healthier people, if you're hungry, they're nicer to eat, aren't they?
Well, that's very true, yeah. And this is the interesting conundrum about this game, I guess, that I hope we're going to explore.
We are, but
a bit more.
And this is one thing. One thing that you might not have known, and I again, this is kind of the revelation I had about the game. Vampyr is quite a lot like a tabletop game.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
In as much as you have these districts, and then you have the citizens. They're very much like kind of pieces on a board, and sections of a board, and every night ends, and I'm putting quotations around there, air quotes, when you decide to rest, and that's when effects on the board almost are resolved. So
Right.
if you have given someone a medicine, the next day they will be recovering until the next day when they will have recovered. If you kill somebody, then the kind of because everyone has got relationships with each other, some people depend on each other, those are resolved the next day.
That's interesting. And I guess like a tabletop game, that could be, that could have ramifications. Like, if like you said, if you kill someone, they're not actually dead for the purposes of the people around them until the next day.
Exactly. So you might want to get something done.
Yeah.
In terms of those mechanics, it just felt really tabletop-y, and it kind of had a real end of round feel. You might want to, if you know that a district is maybe slipping into an unhealthy situation, you might want to hurry up and get some medicine together. Go around literally grinding for materials or whatever to do it. And I have to then, so you might want to get stuff done. But number 5, the thing driving you to go to sleep, so the kind of the mechanic playing against you just staying in one night so nothing bad ever happens, is that you can only evolve your powers when you rest.
Right.
So resting, getting up, every time you want to level up, basically it triggers the next day.
Okay.
So you want to kind of amass XP, do it all in one go. And it's very tricky. I mean, at the beginning you are like, they call you a newborn, I think, and you are like a rubbish vampire.
Right.
You can't really do anything apart from just be alive and want to have blood.
Right.
So we will talk about the skills in just a moment. But yeah, that is a quick number 5. Number 6, Dave, the very core of the game we're at now, which is the Vampire Doctor balance.
Right.
This is like the high concept pitch of the game. It is so we're set in London at a time of great kind of distress. You're a doctor. You care for people. You're also a vampire.
What?
You want to eat people.
How does that work?
Well, you can kind of decide. But
Yes.
Basically,
Well, can you decide, Nath? Is that up to you, the player?
I'm not sure if you can go through without killing anybody. But
Yeah.
I could have done up to where I am at the moment. I'm probably about 8 hours in, I reckon.
But you have killed?
Yeah, and I'll explain why in a moment.
Okay.
It does get quite funny, actually.
That's interesting.
But the again, the kind of the carrot for you here, the reward prod is that when you do want to evolve, that costs XP. The quickest way to get XP is just consuming people.
Right.
It's
Got
like you can kill hundreds and hundreds of enemies, and the game makes a distinction. This could have been its own point, and maybe it should have been that citizens are, the people you talk to are named characters, and it's all like, oh, there are consequences to however you treat them and whatever you do. But there are loads of enemies who are just like you're just killing them. Like
Right.
there are kind of and they are split into, there are scowls, which are a lower form of vampire. And there are kind of anti-vampire hunters called the guards of Prewen.
But I take it you can't feast on either of those.
Not in any meaningful way. You
Right.
get XP from fighting them, but
Yeah.
and they do regenerate in the same spot sometimes. So you can fight them over and over again. But by far the quickest way is by eating people. So the game becomes about who you're going to eat and how many people you're going to eat.
Yes, and I guess that this is what it all rests on, isn't it? Is like your decision-making process of why you might eat someone or not someone else, and the ramifications for the district or London at wide.
I mean both. Yeah, one place into the other. Yeah, exactly. And number 7, Dave, the mechanic which you're going to be investigating all of this. Vampire features a lot of talking.
Right.
Which I want people to understand that this is a kind of it is an action game. There is combat. We're going to get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But there is also a lot of dialogue and exploration. And
Okay.
it's kind of a Sunday afternoony game in lots of ways.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Actually, is it all voice acted, Nate?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, and
Because I don't do the
skippable
reading
also.
so good.
And if you want to know who you're going to consume, you need to talk to them. You get to find out their attitude, whether they're likely to be good or bad. The people that rely on them, what kind of relationships they have, that's all noted down in your little vampire brain. The potential effect of them not being around anymore. And some of these conversations do get quite funny because you end up talking to people and lots of people are kind of like, I just love killing. I'm never going to stop. And it's like,
That's very interesting, young man.
and it's like the game. That's the one guy I was like, I fattened him up and killed him. Like, and when you find out things about people, on the one hand it means that you know what would happen if they weren't there, but also every hint that you unlock about somebody means that they're worth more XP to you when you kill them.
Right.
So I basically fattened this guy up. But that was like my first murder victim. That was like the game going, honestly, just you can kill this guy.
Yeah. He was like wearing garlic aftershave. Well, no, that's not good for a vampire, is it? No, the opposite.
Like cranberry sauce.
Yeah, lovely.
I don't know what they like. But in other instances, you'll be talking to people, like an older doctor maybe who works in the hospital with you, and you'll be like talking about his retirement plans. Like, you got much on?
I've got nothing really. I think I might as well just die at this point.
I've done a lot. Yeah.
What's the point?
Loads. I mean, the game is quite morbid in that way, and there are other people who are like, I'm not afraid of death, and there's like loads of conversations where I kind of, in the middle of them, realise like, wait, the game's telling me it's sort of okay to kill this person, or it might be if I was playing the game in this particular way.
I have a quick question about this, Nath. I don't know if you'll be able to answer it, but it's just, does the game, do you think it wants you to kill bad people, or rather, have you seen any examples of where killing someone who's sort of morally bad, who you've judged to be worthy of being eaten, wasn't actually necessarily the right thing to do for the district?
I've been very good so far.
Right.
So I don't know. I've only eaten one person because I'm kind of going through seeing how few people I can eat.
Right.
But I do know from the demo that we saw actually that, and I've met these people now, that for instance there is a very bad man who is very similar. He kind of says like, I'm a horrible person. I'm never going to change. But his mum loves him.
Right.
And his mum also has taken in another young boy.
Oh,
so
yes.
So it's like
I remember
the
this
domino effect. Like, I haven't killed that guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens if I kill that guy.
That's the important thing, isn't it? These aren't individual kind of like cases. Everyone's interconnected. And
exactly.
Just because a bad person is bad doesn't mean that they aren't in some way tied to good people and other things. That's really, really cool.
But on top of that, I'm not really sure how this will work out yet, but there are certain times when you can definitely make a three-way choice between like, am I going to be just, in conversation trees and everything, where you're like, what kind of person am I going to be? And am I going to be kind of logical? Am I going to be understanding, or am I just going to be like, I'm a vampire now, like I'm predatory, I can do whatever I want. Anyway, so that leads us to skills. Okay, so I wish I'd kind of known more about the skill system when I started. These are unlocked and leveled up with XP. Like these are the ones you learn before you go to sleep at night. Skills include attacks and abilities. So these are kind of real basic stuff. So you'll get like a weapon. You can have two kind of weapons at any point, like offhand and main hand. So I've got like a club with a nail through it, I think.
Nice.
And I've also got like a stake for stunning people. But on top of that, you can put kind of vampire abilities. So I've got claw and blood spear.
Okay.
Claw is just like a slash. Blood spear is like it shoots out like a spear of blood.
Is it ranged?
It is, yeah.
Right.
It's much bigger. And I've also now unlocked an ultimate. And my one that I've got so far is called Blood Cauldron. And it boils the blood of whoever.
Oh, no.
And they burst.
No.
And then the people around them also get hurt.
Oh, God. That's foul.
And so I guess you can also, there's also kind of passive skills like upping your health or upping your stamina, as you'd expect from a kind of an RPG kind of tree, I guess. It's all on one page. You unlock a skill and then you can upgrade it. So basically, you can make yourself a bit stealthier. You can make it so that when you bite people, you get, more blood or it does more damage. You can kind of spec your version of your vampire to kind of be vampire in any way you want. I'm going to barrel along. I'm going to say about biting Dave.
Yeah.
Biting's really key.
Don't bite Dave.
Don't bite Dave, but biting is really key. It's really key to combat. In Vampire, you have health, stamina, and blood. Imagine this, a simplest thing is a bit like Dark Souls or any other kind of RPG, where the health and the stamina are doing exactly what you think. The blood is a bit like your mana.
Got you.
And you can get blood back by biting people. You can get some weapons. You can kind of grab it during a fight, which is sort of horrible. But biting people is the best way. You stun them, then you bite them.
That can mean just enemies, just low-level enemies. You don't,
Yep, this is only in combat. You can't just get blood back from consuming a person. You might fill it up. Can't remember.
Sure.
But like within, I guess what I'm talking about is like the moment-to-moment mechanics of combat. What you end up doing, it becomes kind of a tactical mix of you might want to stun someone so you can bite them. That means that you can heal yourself. There's a thing called autophagy, where you can heal yourself when you've got blood. It also means your extra vampire abilities, which are much stronger than your normal weapons, are also available. So you end up, depending on who you're fighting, whether they're quick, whether they're ranged, whether they're weak to kind of melee or vampire attacks, and you can see all this by looking at them. yeah, you kind of have. It's quite a nice mix. I mean, it's not like it's not an action RPG, you know, in the style of it's not as fluid as something like God of War, but there is a lot to think about. You could be fighting 2 or 3 people at once, circling, managing stamina, thinking about what skills you want to use, whether you've got the best weapons on.
Sure.
That is how combat works. Let's talk about investigations, Dave.
Yes, please.
This is number 10.
Okay.
Investigations are basically side missions in the game, so you will come across. This is why it's good to kind of go and talk to as many people as you can, not just so you can work out whether you're happy murdering them. You might find these are really just like some of them. They almost don't make sense within the story, where you're like this doctor, vampire, pillar of the community guy, and people are like, "Oh, I dropped some things near the river. I'll give you some shillings if you go and get them." But
I'm a doctor, man.
It's kind of bread and butter of the game, and it just gives you a good reason to really get into all the districts and have a really, really good look around.
Yeah.
I found some cool stuff while I was doing this, and actually this ties in. I'm just going to go straight on to number 11, which is I found myself probably wandering too much. So number 11 is let the main kind of quest path guide you.
Okay.
Because what I found was I wandered too much, and I ended up wandering in areas of the game where the game wasn't maybe ready for me to be yet, but it was happy for me to be. So the game felt slightly emptier than it could have done. I feel like if I had just followed the main, and this has got to do with not really understanding how the kind of the tabletop round style system worked. I was worried that if I did the main missions, the game would progress, and I didn't know enough people yet. I wasn't sure.
Right.
And really that progression is separate from the quest progression. So just let the game, the kind of the rhythm of the game be dictated by, it's okay to basically do the story missions.
Yes.
Nothing like that you don't expect is gonna happen. You're not gonna, you know, citizens aren't gonna become endangered or districts go unhealthy or anything like that. And that will mean that every time you go and explore somewhere, you'll be ready for it. You'll be the right level probably, and also it won't end up feeling you like, oh, should I be here, or like, can I really explore this area? Because there's some areas you can explore and some you can't, and you'll avoid that kind of trap. Yeah, the game unlocks itself slowly, and you should just be ready to explore it.
It knows what it's doing.
Just
relax. Let it guide you.
So there you go. That's kind of 11 things I was telling you about Vampire. It's an interesting game.
Yeah, very interesting. I think it's a really cool premise, and that's what struck me straight away when we first landed in our laps last year. Yeah,
a little bit different, and the art style's really strong. It does have, like I said, Sunday afternoon tabletop vibes.
Big fan of that.
It does have good combat, but it again, like, it's not, if you're going in expecting God of War, that isn't what this game is giving you. It's giving you kind of like this thinky, find out. Like more decision making, more of a kind of an in-depth story about kind of flu-ridden London. Who doesn't want that?
My favourite.
So I've been really enjoying my time with it. I'm looking forward to getting back to the game. I might just eat a bunch of people. No, I've been good. I've saved it up like an ice cream.
In the game?
Yeah, in the game.
You really have to be clear when you're talking about that kind of
That's very true, yes. Look, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like. Let us know what you think about what you've seen of Vampire so far in the comments below. And subscribe to PlayStation Access. We've got loads more coming up.